Hello and welcome to part 3 of Betting People with Tom Stanley. Now, as ever, I've asked for your questions. I loved them last week for Tim Carroll. I loved them this time around for Tom. First things first, the really important things. From many people, I can't even read out the amount of names that asked me this, but how do you get your hair to look so magnificent? Best hair in racing is the universal view. You've got to share some of your secrets with us.
It's all I've got really. It's got. Imagine if I suddenly lost it all. I think I'd be taken off racing TV.
That'd be a shame. Terrible shame.
So, I mean, genuinely, I do very little to it. I feel very odd talking seriously about this. I tend to get out of the shower and then just put a bit of paste on my hands, and it just goes like that. Honestly, it just does. It's so used to it. It's well trained hair that it just knows. It sort of knows where it's going. This cut is so my wife did this about 4 or 5 days ago, and I think she did a good job. I think she did all right. The worst part was the sort of spidery bits at the back of your neck. They if you leave them, it's terrible. So we eventually got rid of those as well. So I think she did I'm not too precious about it. People won't believe that, but I was pretty calm when she was doing it.
Well, given the amount of people that literally asked me if you were breaking lockdown rules, I think she's done a pretty impressive job. Second one, this is from Gareth Budge. I'm sure he's saying it in a nice fashion. What's it like being the poor man's Ollie Bell? This is something Ollie Bell particularly enjoyed.
I know, I'm not surprised. I have been called P-Mob before, actually, by someone else in racing. And
tell us who somebody else was.
I couldn't possibly, but she might be watching. I can see it. I can absolutely see it. Ollie was to be fair, Ollie, I probably wouldn't have got it. So basically, when I started with racing TV was when the Channel 4 shift happened, High Flyer to IMG. And obviously Nick Lutt moved to doing a lot more, to Channel 4 and hardly anything for racing TV. Ollie started being a lead presenter at Racing TV, and he was a great help in me getting into racing TV at the lower level as a presenter. I happily take that moniker as P-Bob, and I probably forever will be. He was great straight first up with actually helping me getting in. I remember I was doing work experience there, and I sat in the booth with him when he was doing a shift. And I thought he might be a bit standoffish, like, oh, there's a guy coming along trying to be a presenter. Like, I'm not going to give him any help. And he was exactly the opposite. He was like, here's my number. Any questions, let me know, mate. I did a screen test, gave me some feedback on it. So I'm happy to be P-Mob.
Oh, that's lovely. Actually, just on that note, what would your advice be for people trying to get into racing, especially the racing media, I guess?
That is a good question, isn't it? I think that it's an overcrowded market, the generating your own content place, because everyone can do it now. But it's still an advantage to be able to do that. You can generate your own content, and if you're passionate about it and you can find something a little bit unique, then you've got to go out there and do it. Be it your own videos or a podcast, or however you want to do it, or something like that we're doing now. Then I think you've got to try and generate your own content, because otherwise it's tricky to get noticed. I got incredibly lucky, just a timing thing, but otherwise it's not easy. But I think you've got to look to generate as much content as you can yourself, and then that builds up a body of work for you to go to people with.
And just actually, because we do have quite a few people who are asking, how can we make racing's workforce? And I don't just mean the media, I mean racing as a whole, sort of more diverse. Is there anything the sport we think can do basically to attract a wider range of people and get them working in it, not just sort of as jockeys or stable staff, but administrators, clerks to courses, etc.
Well, I think the Racing to School program looks to do that, looks to introduce people at school age to all different areas of racing. Because there's no doubt, unless you are introduced to racing at a young age, or the way you're going to be introduced to racing at a young age is normally if you are related to somebody who's already working in it. Perhaps we'll see a post-lockdown boom because of the amount that racing, and ITV have done a fantastic job with this, the amount of racing that's been on terrestrial television. It's incredible. We're so lucky that happened, that racing came back on the 1st of June before any other sport. The commitment that a terrestrial TV station has been able to make to racing. Largely, dare I say it, because they can have bookmaker advertising on TV, which is no secret, obviously, that's a huge part of the financial deal for them. So going back to the bookmaker reform issue, but maybe we'll see a lot more people coming out and going, oh, during that period I was able to watch live sport on TV. It happened to be racing because that was the only live sport on TV for a period. But I think unless you're going to go and speak to someone in their early 20s or get them in front of racing, how are they going to develop an interest in it if they don't already? Well, normally through a betting point of view, if they're not already interested. I think try and get them in young and educate them young, but it's not easy. It's not easy to get people to watch and have an opinion about a race. It's different to football, where you support a team from a young age and then you develop an opinion about who you want to win, etc. Racing's a bit harder than that, because if you switch on the racing, it's not always easy to decide who you want to win the race, which is probably what led me down the betting path. I think Racing to School are doing a lot of good stuff, and I wish I had more creative ideas about how to get young people in racing. I don't think we're in a desperate state of affairs, by the way. We were the second best attended sport, so I don't think we're in a desperate state of affairs, but I suppose there's always more you can do.
Yeah, interesting, and a nice positive note to end that answer on. Okay, another question everybody asked me, the cricket. I did some reading on this and found a link. I didn't want to ruin the whole story for myself or anybody else, but explain the cricket story.
So this is back to PMOB. It's back to Ollie. I mean, it was just a shocker. It was an absolute shocker. It's the World Cup final. I'm sure plenty of people have heard the story. Ollie was kind enough to get me a ticket to the World Cup final. He invited me along. We showed up. We drank far too much. No secret about that. And we had a great day until England went into bat and started to collapse. The other thing was we'd been betting quite heavily on New Zealand throughout the day. We took the view that they were the wrong price throughout the day. Obviously, not really knowing that they were, but we were inebriated and we thought that would add a bit of fun to it. So we had a fair bit riding on New Zealand, and the day progressed, and then we were getting a little bit shaky about the result. And then I think when Josh Butler went, we were a bit concerned. Ollie at that point said, look, if we're going to lose, I'm not sticking around to watch us lose. We had a night planned afterwards. We were going to go on somewhere. And he said, I'm not sticking around to watch us lose. So I think at that stage, I was a little bit more positive about, I was like, no, it's not. And then when Plunkett got out, I was like, yeah, we're done. We're over. I think we needed 24 off 9, something like that. Doable. People have reminded me since that actually England was still about 5-4, but we left. So yeah, we left. I was ordering an Uber on my phone. It's over. We haven't won the World Cup final. Absolute disaster. Stepped outside the Grace Gate, and there was a huge cheer, massive cheer. And we were like, shit, what's happened? Something big's happened. And we looked at the TV screen over in the bar next door to the Grace Gate, and we saw that it was when I can't remember who the fielder was, but he caught the ball from Stokes and stepped over the rope. So it was a catch, which then became a 6. And we looked at the score, and we're like, oh, we've got to go back in. So we just turned around, went to walk back in. They wouldn't let us back in because we hadn't been given a pass-out pass. And you need one of those apparently to get back in. So that was that. All the arguing in the world, all the pleading, please let us back in. Super overcame, you've got to let us back in. We had our tickets and we weren't allowed back in. So we craned our necks for the greatest ever English cricketing sporting moment over a load of Indian fans who were actually outside the ground, watching on the smallest TV screen in the world, just outside the Grace Gate, and watched England win, and it was thoroughly depressing.
Oh,
yeah, it was an absolute shocker. I had to call my dad, who was in there. He was sat somewhere else. Had to call him afterwards, and he was, brilliant, wasn't it? How good was that? And I was like, Dad, you're never going to forgive me, but I left with 9 balls to go.
Right, I feel we need something. We need a different, brighter story to end this. What's
shocking? Shocking, absolutely shocking. I still have nightmares about it. Shocking. And Ollie has subsequently had to explain himself to the England captain. They were at a function together, and he'd heard about it. And Morgan was like, "Do tell." So yeah.
Wow. Let's have an anecdote for that. What's the best memory you've got from racing? What's your favorite time for any live racing moment?
Somebody wrote about this. I don't know how they remember about Denman's second Hennessy.
Oh, by the way, that was a question I just remembered. Oh gosh, your host is disgracing himself here, but somebody did. I know. How can you ask for questions and then
forget one? Yeah,
never forget a question. But it's an excellent way to lead into this lovely question, which is basically, is Denman's second Hennessy still your favorite race of all time? I'm guessing it is.
Yes. That was it was just, that was it. That was incredible. It seems ridiculous to go for a moment where I wasn't actually there. I wasn't there. I remember I was watching it in a friend's living room, but it's still in my mind is my best ever racing moment. And yet I've been at the races for so many great moments. But yeah, I don't know what it was about that, more than Courtois' 5th King George, for example. Just that, because I always loved Denman over Courtois. Courtois was a bit meh, whereas Denman was the boy. I just loved him. And the fact that he came back and did that under that weight carrying performance, when you get a horse carrying top weight and does that from the front, that was just absolutely magic. It was tears and everything after that. It just stirred everything. It was amazing. So that is, even though I wasn't there, I was watching it on TV. That is my greatest racing memory.
And a wonderful way to end this week's Betting People. Tom, you have been an absolute star, no pun intended, and so have you for watching. Please do get in touch with your thoughts, views, comments and suggestions, even for future guests, but we've got a cracking bunch down the line. They'll do well to match today's guest, Tom Stanley.
Thanks, Will.